Hello, survivors, and welcome to A Moment of Relief, the first day spray show where we talk about whatever we want. I need to. I'm good at this.
It's staying in.
Okay.
That's staying in.
That's
Yeah, it's
definitely
alright. We
staying
keep
in.
it in. It's all relaxed
Okay.
here and more.
Yeah.
Okay, let's try that again.
What do we talk about, Steve?
I'm doing the intro. Hello,
What do we talk
survivors,
about?
and welcome to A Moment of Relief, the first day spray show where we talk about whatever we want, whatever else is decided, horrifically, pleasantly, surprised, or painfully disappointed. I'm reading Sci Skipped rather badly. All emotions we might be expressing as we talk about the games conferences we've just had to go through for the past 2 weeks with Summer Game Fest. With me, as you can already tell by their mouthing off and cheery attitude, is the ever illustrious Kelsey Dean Book. Say hi, Kels.
Hi, Kels.
And also, not to be underestimated, especially in this hot and sweaty weather, we have Moist Owlet, aka James.
Hello.
Very moist today.
Right. Yeah, very moist. Now, I think we should just keep this candid and have a flow of consciousness. So if we're going to go conference by conference, we can make it a little quicker. Is that okay? We have all watched pretty much everything, right?
I haven't watched every single
Right.
conference, so that's not going to work.
I have the PlayStation, the Xbox, and the PC notes down.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've just kind of focused
Highlights,
on
please.
my general thoughts from the stuff that I saw, which was PlayStation, Summer Games Fest, Xbox, and I skimmed through the Capcom one.
That's fair. Honestly, I think we'll be fine, really. I've seen pretty much bits and pieces of all of them as well. Like, I've only played. I've played the entire conference, actually completed, mate. So we should, between us, a very, casual, ramshackle overview of what we think we like, what we're excited for, and what we don't think is so great. So out of the gate, I want to be a bit spicy and say that I kind of feel that the PlayStation conference was a little bit mid this time. If you're not into Spider-Man or into Final Fantasy 16, two games that have already been announced, there wasn't really much for you here this time. Don't get me wrong, the Spider-Man gameplay demo was pretty fantastic, in terms of showing you what's going to happen, tagging between the characters and all that things, but we already knew that game existed.
Weren't you
Otherwise,
excited for Project Q, Steve? There were at least two people that were excited about Project Q.
they not own a
One of
Steam
them
Deck
was
or a Vita?
Jim Ryan.
It was, it was a really random. I thought it was cool. I thought it was a really cool thing.
Sure.
But at the same time, Steam did it about 5-6 years ago. First,
Steam Deck's not been out that long.
No, with the Steam Link.
Oh,
Like, you can put a Steam Link anywhere in your house and you just connect. You can just play anything anywhere.
Well, yeah, and then
around your house with a Steam Link.
the Wii U also did it, because that's what it is. It's a Wii U gamepad. You can't.
Yeah, true.
You can't
Yeah.
be outside with it. It's just stream the games over your Wi-Fi at home, which is great. I mean, I feel like it's one of those things where if I just had loads of money, like loads of expendable income, yeah, I'd probably have one. That'd be handy. But it was kind of.
It's a luxury, isn't it?
It's a complete luxury. So I thought that
it reminds me.
I like that we're kind of moving into a space, and I know, Kels, you kind of agree with me here, like where we're appreciating cloud gaming more, right? But to buy a console essentially to do it, it's kind of lame.
Yeah, you have to have the PS5. It's like kind of defeats the point. Right.
Wait, it's not its own separate piece of kit. It actually is like basically an add-on for the PS5.
100%. It's a Wii U gamepad with Sony branding on.
The PlayStation Portable and the Vita, right, God bless and rest in peace, were great pieces of kit, and this feels like it's almost a sacrilegious artifact among them, if that makes any sense. Literally, yes, disappointing.
They haven't released any features or anything about it, so I don't want to be too harsh on it just yet, because maybe it'll bring something new.
It doesn't.
I'm not.
It doesn't even have an OLED screen, which I don't care about. But the PS Vita had an OLED screen. It said LCD screen, so it's very much a budget, add-on for your PS5. There's no native gameplay on it. It's just streaming over your Wi-Fi. So, Yeah.
Sorry for bringing it to Project Q. I know we're not but yeah, I saw that. I think the only other thing that everybody was excited for, and then there was one game that I was very excited for on there, but we're going to talk about that later anyway, because it was on several. It was on several kind of lists, but there was Marathon that was announced, which everyone was surprised about. I remember when it came up on the screen, I was like, "Is this Destiny?" Because everybody looked kind of Destiny-ish, and then I started looking at all the colors, and some things are a bit off, and then I was like, "Look, this is a bit strange." And then it was announced a new Marathon game was being announced.
I low-key thought it was going to be here is the System Shock port for PlayStation 5 with all the weird, insectoid, cybernetic stuff going on. Seeing that, I don't know what the heck an extraction shooter is. I'm sorry, I'm old. But seeing Bungie basically go from, Marathon to Halo to Destiny and now back again is kind of fun. Hopefully it's going to be, a big hit. Actually, yeah. I was going to say that the PlayStation Showcase was a total bust for me, but I like interesting FPS concepts, so, yeah, I'll take that.
Well, it wasn't a total bust. You got a trailer for the Gran Turismo movie, so
I forgot about that.
Yeah, I think I think the Sony showcase was a joke. To be honest, I know I come off as a fanboy and a hater, but I know plenty of people who are Sony PlayStation owners that watched that and thought, "What's coming after Spider-Man?" They know that they're making a Wolverine game in 5 years' time, but there was nothing for that. It feels like it was the Project Q, Spider-Man, a bunch of indie games, and a Splatoon ripoff. And
God, yeah.
I think it was...
Forgot about Foam Stars.
Surprising. I think Sony have had a very good run of games in recent times, and yeah, it was just very mid, as you said, Steve. There was better stuff across the other shows by far, in my opinion.
You had MGS.
Oh, you did. Metal Gear Solid Delta.
You did, but I feel that game is now coming with a huge caveat. I mean, for a start, the reveal, it was the worst kept secret. Everyone sort of knew it was coming, and then we got the very short CG trailer. And then you kind of come to learn that, okay, Konami are doing this. They have recruited an external, Chinese studio to do it. And they're just going to reuse all the original voice dialogue, I think, as well. So, yeah, as excited as I am for that, I'm concerned it's going to be the biggest cash-in of all the remakes we've seen so far. And I don't know how much love and care is going into that. So, remains.
So when you put it like that,
that's fair.
That scares me a little. That sounds like we're going to take the Pachinko FMV graphical template and basically just reskin MGS3, which is a shame.
Yeah, and that's, I love to be... I'm generally really positive, but I do love to be cynical now and again, and I just think Konami's track record in the past 7 years is not good, and I think they looked around and saw everyone doing incredibly well off remakes and thought, oh, we'll have some of that, and then they're just doing it in the most kind of the stress-free, easiest high profitability way they can. They're not even making it internally, so... They're not really back in the business of games. I know we've got Silent Hill 2 coming as well, but that's Bloober. So, and their games are sort of up and down depending on what you think. But yeah, I was excited that MGS3 got announced, and but from a Sony fan sort of point of view, it's not. It's a multi-platform game. It's going to be on PC and Xbox as well. So just as far as the showcase goes, we're talking about the showcases. It wasn't really an exciting point for Sony. So there was a lot of third-party stuff that they showed off, and that was one of them.
Shall we move on to the quote-unquote next in line, the big one, Mr. Jeff Keighley, Summer Game Fest. All right, I feel like this was also in the bracket of a little bit mid. Not to throw everything. There was some announcements I was actually kind of hyped for, like a Dragon Gaiden. A first look of it, like the smallest, tensest little morsels of Kiryu gameplay with his new Agent Spider-Man whip and stuff, which was neat. But other than that, it was felt like E3 of old was starting to creep back in. With we had Nicolas Cage on stage doing a bit, talking about Dead by Daylight, and I've got to be honest. Other than the Final Fantasy VII reveal, which may or may not have upset a lot of people with the way they teased it. I don't really remember much about what was going on there. There are obviously a few games there, but I mean, what do you guys think?
I think when it comes to the Final Fantasy, it's funny, you know, because that Final Fantasy VII announcement was so weird because he said the rumors are true, but everybody knew it was happening. Like, it wasn't a rumor at all. Like, for the past like 2 months or so, the crew and the developers of this game have been announcing small things about Rebirth. They've been putting out tweets about it, literally talking about it. Like, it wasn't a rumor, Jeff. It happened. It's happened. We knew it was happening, right? And I'm doubly annoyed, right? Because he sat there, right, and started saying all these things about an old developer, and over the many years, and they're so respected, and you know, and I'm going, it's Dragon Age.
Yeah, legions of BioWare fans are all gasping in hope, and then they were suddenly silenced.
You know, it's like, of course it's not Final Fantasy VII because we already know it's fun. It's not that. We knew that Fable was coming, which we'll talk about later on, right? It has to be Dragon Age. But no, it wasn't Dragon Age. It was a cool cinematic, but you learn more information by just following the Final Fantasy VII Twitter than you did that cinematic. It showed you the beginning of the explosion of Sector 7.
Honestly, it's a bit
9.
narratively grey. Like, I am ascribing to the multiverse angles. Moderate spoilers for Final Fantasy VII, the remake that came out just like a few years ago.
I haven't played it yet, but
it's leaning into, like, there may or may not be multiple universes, time travel. Fate has been altered and basically cancelled out at the end of that game, so then they have a means to forge their own history and make their own path. And it kind of looks like Zack is living in the darkest timeline, while the original cast are doing a new retelling of the original adventure. But again, that's up in the air. It might not be. That's partial fan theory. I am surprised that was the end of the Summer Game Fest showcase, because it's still console exclusive. I would have thought that would have been at the PlayStation showcase, because it's still PlayStation exclusive. Yeah.
Well, actually, that's not been confirmed yet, I don't think. Because they did make a tweet with a little thing on it that kind of alluded that it would be available to everybody, but it didn't say precisely that it would be. Right? It's just so we don't quite know yet. I hope it is available to everybody, because game companies don't understand that you earn more money doing that. Right?
I've seen many an internet argument justifying exclusivity of third-party titles, and they're all tosh. But that's an argument for another time. I mean, Kels, you seem awfully dignified and respectful. Is there anything that jumped out at Summer Games Fest for you?
Right. Okay, so I just want to preface this with, so Summer Game Fest had two of my favourite trailers from the entire season, which I'll get to in a minute. But, like, what you were talking about there, James, about the way he led into Final Fantasy, I think that's just a small part of the SHIT show that was the Summer Games Fest, to be honest with you, because it wasn't the only time he did that on the show. There was something earlier with, like, an ad campaign as well, where the crowd even piped up, and then he said, no, not that, and I can't remember the brand, I don't even care to remember.
DoorDash.
Yeah, it was DoorDash.
Yeah.
And also, you know, you guys know me, like, I'm not somebody to kind of go online and preach and shout and moan, but there wasn't a single woman on the Summer Games Fest, right? And you can't tell me that all of those games that they presented, that there wasn't a developer, there wasn't a community manager, there wasn't someone who worked at one of these studios that couldn't come on stage and present these games. And I just think things like that, when you sit back and think about it, it's like, how? This is a catastrophic failure for something as big as Summer Games Fest, and Jeff Keighley, who's supposed to be, you know, the new guy with the big shows. This is the guy running the Game Awards, and it's like, they should come away from that show ashamed of themselves. Like, I was thinking about this in the car on the way back from work today. Like, I was like, oh, is it that big of a deal? And I'm just like, yes, it is that big of a deal. It's actually insane that happened, that they got through like nearly 2 hours of what was a generally pretty boring show anyway, and there wasn't a single female on stage. So yeah, it's just, that's kind of my rant out the way. And I don't make a habit of talking about stuff like that, but it's just embarrassing, to be honest. And coming off the back of the Sony showcase, which wasn't good, Summer Games Fest wasn't great, but it did have two of my favourite trailers for games I'm most excited about, which was Sonic Superstars and the DLC for Shredder's Revenge. But there we go.
Oh yes, I forgot about that. That's it's they're going a bit multiverse with it, aren't they? There's a rabbit character whose name escapes me, but they're doing, like, you can even get like the old turtle skins and stuff modelled after all of the shows.
That's right.
It looks like it's going to be fantastic, and Sonic Superstars. Okay,
so yeah,
I love me a good Sonic game.
Yeah, like I don't think we're going to see any of the issues that we saw with Sonic 4. I think they've learned from their mistakes. I think it looks fantastic. Obviously, I'm a Sonic fan. So I'm excited when there's any Sonic news. But one of the main reasons, genuinely, that I got so excited about Sonic Superstars and the Shredder's Revenge DLC. So Shredder's Revenge is like my kid's favourite game. Like, he plays it all the time. And whenever an update comes to a game that he loves, he just loses his mind completely. And it's a multiplayer game, and we play it together. And then Sonic Superstars also had a big section in the trailer that said team up, and it showed, in the classic style with Sonic and Tails, Knuckles and Tails, or whatever, whoever you want to be, do the levels together. And so I just saw that and was like, yeah, it's just a huge win for me. It doesn't even need to be a masterpiece of a game. I think it's out next year. It may have said 20, or did it say fall? It might have said later this year, possibly.
I don't know.
I want to say fall.
Yeah, I might be getting their dates mixed up, but I think they're both out relatively soon. So yeah, I was just, despite the horror show that was the Games Fest, both of those games look great, and I'm very excited for both of them.
Yeah, I mean, touching on Sonic, it's surprising after like the reasonable fan reception to Sonic Frontiers being like, yeah, this is actually pretty good. Yeah, I like this. They've still turned around and gone, yeah, we're going to make a classic Sonic game now, which is great because it means I'm being catered to for once.
Yeah, I think I still haven't played Sonic Frontiers because, well, just various reasons, money, and I'd planned to get it on the Switch, and then that turned out to be like a really bad version of it, so I just didn't, and then it just passed me by. But yeah, it just looks like classic Sonic, that style, and I think, if it isn't broke, don't fix it. I, like everybody, would have loved to have seen a full-blown Sonic Mania 2, but I think this is the closest we're ever going to get to that, so I'll take it, and yeah, I'm happy with it.
I
was just
going to say, there was a game that wasn't there, and Steve was very upset. We didn't get Bloodborne. However, we did get Lies of P in a demo. So I was going to lead you in, James. What did you think of that?
I will talk about that quick. I will talk about that after, because I just wanted to bring up a quick thing about Sonic, because they were making out at first like it was going to be a remake of some kind. Yeah. Like it felt like that. And there was like a section, really cool bit, where they went from the old sprites to the new version. I just wanted to ask, like, do we think they're going to have kind of a button that changes it? Like kind of a la Command and Conquer? Like where you can...
Here's the old style, here's the new style?
Yeah, there is also a bit in the trailer where it looks like an old... Like, that's not the only bit at the start of the trailer. There's a bit later where all the characters are in the old 16-bit style. I think the world around them is possibly not, but it moves by really quickly. I'd have to go through frame by frame. So it seems like there's definitely going to be some kind of sort of possible moving backwards and forwards. Whether there's like a button, like you say, like the Master Chief Collection, you can do that as well, can't you? You switch back and see the old graphics. I mean, it feels like that stuff's like possible. It's the kind of stuff that you would have always loved to have. These days, it's very possible to do that if they put the time in. So it's certainly doable, but whether they've bothered to, I don't know. Be awesome.
Yeah, I was just saying it would be really cool. The first game of a console that I ever owned was Sonic 1 on the Mega Drive in 1991. Yeah. And I spent the entire weekend playing it. And when I saw that on the screen, I was like, oh, it takes me back to those times. It was really nice.
James, I've spent my entire life playing it.
I've only spent a weekend, so I'm not a true fan of Sonic.
Hashtag fake fan. Get him, internet.
Just outshot, there are 7 Chaos Emeralds on a fine display, just like Kelsey worships them every night.
Dear. So Lies of P, Yeah, I am so shocked at how good this game looked on my PC.
For listeners' reference, James's PC is a bit of a shed, only slightly less of a shed than mine.
It would my PC would do very well in 2014. But yeah, I started I downloaded the demo, and the demo is like 22 gigabytes, which is huge for a demo. And I started playing it, and immediately I'm in, like, I love the surrounding. You're in this Bloodborne-esque Victorian French/Italian like kind of architectures all around you. It's very muted colors around you, but so is Bloodborne in a way, though Bloodborne has a lot of colors as well. It has way more colors than Lies of P. But yeah, the main character, Timothée Chalamet, looks amazing.
Wait a minute, that's a Dune reference. Well, it's an actor.
He looks like Timothy. He looks like Timmy. But yeah, the combat. Bergs was with me for part of it, but I played through the entire thing. It was just under 4 hours of gameplay for me. We kept on thinking, we got to a boss and kept on thinking, sure, it's going to stop here, right? No. Got to another boss, no. And another one, no. And then there was a final one, which was very clearly the end of demo boss, because it took me, all the other bosses are like one shot, and then there's one boss, it took me about 15 attempts before I killed him. I was like, oh, there it is. There's the Dark Souls, Bloodborne-esque kind of boss fight that I expected.
Is it still die, respawn at the nearest lamp/lantern kind of thing? Yeah. Okay.
It's changed some things. So if you are on your last Estus, in this game it's called a pulse cell, I think. If you're on your last one and you ingest it or you put it into yourself or whatever, if you attack things, you can get another one. So you can give yourself... It's kind of like a mixture between Bloodborne and its own kind of mechanics, which is kind of neat.
That's good. Something to, like, A, B, the closest thing we're going to get to a Bloodborne 2, because apparently that's a dirty word at whoever's running FromSoft or Sony, whoever's got the rights, and doing its own thing too.
Yeah. I want to talk as well about the theme. The theme is Pinocchio. It's the Pinocchio story, but put into a dark, gritty world, where there are these creepy robots everywhere. Some kind of huge rampage has happened. The AI has gone rampant, and they've basically killed everybody. You start the game, and there's a whole hall full of dead people, and there's just this policeman a robot policeman who's pounding them into the ground. Like it's pretty horrendous. Yeah, but when it comes to, like, Lies of P, it never dropped a frame. I was having a great time with it. It looked beautiful, and I think Digital Foundry did a video about what they thought of it, and they made some pretty they criticized it quite a lot for how it looked and stuff and how it ran. And I'm like, listen, I have a 2014 PC and it ran great on my system. So
yeah, but you're not running like ray tracing and all the rest of it, James.
That's true.
You're running it potato mode like I would.
That is true. Yeah, I am not part of that club yet.
Okay. There was one other game that caught my eye, and I'll admit it's probably a bit niche because it's an anime weeby game, and it's the one with Akira Toriyama being involved. The Dragon Ball guy. I want to say it's Sandland.
Sandland, yeah.
Yeah, which seems to be somewhere between Mad Max and Dragon Ball, with a lot of open world building a tank and fighting. Looks kind of fun. It's actually ticking a lot of boxes for me as something a bit different from the Breath of the Wilds, in that it's got that kind of Toriyama charm. Obviously can't go that in depth with it, other than it looks really nice. And apparently it's got a legacy it was a manga Toriyama wanted to do, but then it's now become a game because he couldn't be bothered to make it a manga.
So you turned it into a game.
That sounds like more work, but I applaud his laziness. Right. So, moving on then, are we all good to move on to the Xbox conference, or do you have something else you want to say?
No, I'm not.
I've had nothing but
good
things about Lies of P. I just wanted to say, by the way, like every like content creator and podcast I've listened to over the past week have all just like sung its praises and talked about that demo. I haven't tried it myself, but Yeah, it's out soon as well. It's like September. It's really soon.
Not long. I mean, it's been teased for a long time, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, at Game Awards last year, if not before.
And they didn't, unlike kind of like Deathloop or Redfall, or I could go on.
What's that game? What's that game? That magic FPS game that's just irritating and it's here all the time.
Avium?
That's the new. Yeah, Immortals something Avium. That's the new Redfall, the new Deathloop. It's here all the time.
Yeah.
Just screen time, please go away.
But Liza P didn't do that. Like it kind of here's a little bit of a teaser, and like it did make it a big deal, and then it was like, okay, well that's that done, and we'll hit. Yeah, it was nice. The one thing I wanted to say, just as kind of mostly as a joke, but what did we think of Gollum 2?
I mean, there's plenty of good Lord of the Rings games in the past. So when I see a trailer for a new one, I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm not going to write it off just because of Gollum.
It looks terrible.
Is this Mines of Moria game?
Yeah. Return to Moria. Lord of the Rings Return to Moria.
Yeah.
You have a look at that. If you have a look at that trailer, it's a mobile game.
Yeah, it's very much a mobile game.
I was looking at it and going, this is a game. I just played Dragon Age Inquisition, right? The graphics in Return to Moria is way worse than even Inquisition, and that released over 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Right? And that's inexcusable. I think we might be getting a delay with Return to Moria.
I mean, the whole Embracer group's going through a big reshuffle because of the fantastic performance of Gollum. I'm all for not being just two big tents in gaming, right? I don't want to just be here's Sony, here's Microsoft, here's Nintendo. That's three big tents, Steve. Whoa, but you get the point, right? I'm all for new people throwing their hat in the ring and trying to publish stuff, but there's also a level of competence you must approach. You can't just bottom dollar this
what's
thing.
Crazy,
not the AAA space.
I was hearing for a while, I think everyone assumed they were buying studios to sell at a profit because everyone was like, they're not going to make any games. And they were buying loads of studios that had never made anything or made anything good. So it was like, okay, yeah, you're going to inject something into them and then sell them off. But then this news has come out where they've just started sacking everybody. And it's like, oh no, you had no plan. You're completely incompetent. And yeah, maybe some of the stuff from the past year with games not working and live services just shutting down one after the other, they're like, oh sugar, we probably can't deal with this. So yeah, I don't expect them to be, and I think they said, oh, this isn't going to affect the development of Tomb Raider and stuff, but yeah, I don't see that going well. I mean, we're sort of sidetracking a little bit here, but really,
I know, but it's current around. It happened during Summer Game Fest. It's part of the event. So I guess we could skirt around current news ish.
It's relevant.
Yeah. I'm just trying to look at who's under their umbrella right now. I'm kind of worried. I know THQ
Eidos Montreal, Crystal Dynamics. Did you say THQ Nordic? Is it THQ?
Yeah,
THQ Nordic. And then they were buying IPs as well. So I guess they bought some of that Lord of the Rings stuff. Yeah, I don't know. But there was loads of random studios that if you said the name, you'd be like, I have no idea who they are because they've never made anything. And it was like, yeah, okay, they're going to sell them at a profit, but no, they're just shutting them down. So I don't get it.
It's really sad, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just idiots, absolutely idiots that think they can get into an industry and then, yeah. Anyway,
there'll be lots of talented people buried in there, but for example, you've got 3D Realms in there, and they look like they're making some fantastic content of late. But they're niche, and they're only a small fragment of a larger whole. Right. So, the Xbox conference. This was, I think, the most classic E3 feeling in that we actually had people coming out onto stage. Now, as much as Jeff's Summer Game Fest also had that kind of nuance and feel, this was the one that felt like we're straight back in the heyday of 2015, 2016. I don't know if I would say that every game there enraptured me, but I think it was, considering the back of the other two conferences, I actually maintained focus and attention for most of it, which says a lot.
Yeah.
Because I also have the issue of not being able to focus on anything for more than 5 minutes. Do we have any games that we're excited about?
Oh yeah.
Who's going
There's
first?
the big one. Should we just talk about the big one first?
Are we talking about the big one first, are we?
So there's Starfield.
Yes, Starfield.
What? Starfield?
The game
Never
that
heard
they
of it.
delayed a year because they would have competed with Elden Ring and lost. No, it looks great. It looks very good. Like the bit, do you know the bit that sold me is when Todd was going back into his ship and he says, "Oh, and by the way, Sir Wordsworth," or whatever the bloody robot's name was, he says your name.
Yeah.
Right, and I'm like, as soon as I play this game, I am naming myself Penis Butt.
Yeah, butthole.
Or something like that, you know? It's going to be,
This
you
is
know,
a PG show, gentlemen, please, by all means.
I was sold at that moment. And then when he started talking about customization of ships and stuff, I was like, I'm going to make the Nostromo, I'm going to make the Sulaco. Like, because they also kept on saying
Freighters
NASA,
and purposes.
NASA
You know,
punk
NASA
style.
punk. Yeah.
And I was like, that is so alien. I'm just going to make an alien ship. And yeah, it was very exciting.
The Starfield deep dive that followed the direct was remarkably more in depth than I was giving it credit for. Like, you know, this game is out in November, something like that.
September.
And we're early September.
Yes.
Starfield.
Yep, September the 6th. Yep.
And we already have like details on basically how level up system works, the general idea of how dialogue system works, the ship building and base building. Yeah, it's shaping up to be kind of tasty. It kind of has that No Man's Sky feel, but a bit more of a Bethesda feel to the actual world. And you know, there's going to be a story and lore behind just a simulation. Don't get me wrong, I love me some No Man's Sky. A new update came for that out recently. It's fantastic. But derailing. The only real complaint I have about Starfield is I don't vibe with the aesthetic of the weaponry and the suits. But that's a small thing. You know, I'm sure I'll find some like tattered and battered looking bandit stuff that'll look better than the very boxy and square. The ships don't suffer with this, but like seeing a square shotgun made me go, "Do not like this."
They do have a generic look to them.
But
Like,
that might be the nature of the beast. I get the feeling there is like random generation in how they behave anyway. For me, like as cool as Starfield was, it was great to see Senua again because the Hellblade Senua's Sacrifice was one of my like favorite games when it came out. Yes, it's got very simple combat and it's a very simple story, but it's just the way they did sound and stuff, and that was actually still present in when you could listen to the conference on the headphones, which was nice. But the standout is Yakuza Infinite Wealth because we saw a naked man on a beach for all of 10 minutes. It was hilarious.
Penis.
That's a point. Kels, you had a very important question you want to ask.
Did they model a penis? Like, listen, I know some behind the scenes stuff of like movie making and stuff, and I know, I feel it in my bones, no pun intended, that those developers absolutely modeled a penis. Because why wouldn't you? Because you want realism, you want the physics correct. It would be silly not to. So it exists, it's there for people who want to pretend that it's not, and I think it was fantastic. I thought that trailer, did more for... Steve, you might not like me saying this, but I thought that trailer did more for Yakuza as a franchise than anything in recent years, because...
No, that's fine.
It's just...
I vibe.
It's just kind of... And for it to be at that showcase, that's a big deal for Xbox in their relationship with Japan, and I just think it's... that if you were going to pick a way to go to show that game there, that's the way to do it, rather than, I think, show too much about what happens in the game, because that is what people are talking about, and it caught people's eye and it made people laugh, and I think it just encapsulated the tone that they wanted, and yeah, it was beautiful, really well done.
As someone who last year went like deep on the Yakuza series, has played every mainline one available on console now, there's actually that brief snippet said a lot about their intentions. Like, obviously, humor has been a big thing in the series across the board. Nothing quite as ridiculous as waking up face down, probably drugged, and on a beach naked. But at the same token, this is going to be the first time that a Like a Dragon Yakuza style game is out of Japan. Like, in the States, that means a lot, because there is always in those games iconography, like your medicines, your items, your gear, is normally stuff that really does exist in Japan, and I wonder how that's going to translate, because there's a lot of iconography and stuff that's unique to that series that's now not necessarily going to be the only thing in the pot. Not to mention that Ichiban's amazing. Like, if there was ever a follow-up of a character from Kiryu, you might as well have, a cheerful chap like him. Also, I hope he gets some clothes because he looks really cold.
Something I wish I was right now.
I'm gonna just quickly. I'm gonna jump back to Starfield just quickly. Generally, so Xbox Showcase, I think it didn't have a very high bar to clear, but it was easily the best showcase of the season. I thought they did really well with sticking to trailer, just a person talking for like 1 minute and then back to the trailers. Like, that was really good. Mm-hmm. Everything you saw was, they claim, this again, you can take this stuff with a grain of salt. Everything was in-engine, captured on, consoles. It was all labeled. It was either in-game cutscenes or in-game cinematics. There could have been more gameplay, like you talked about Hellblade 2. Like, all right, you've convinced us with the visuals. You've done it. You don't need to show us anything else. It looks amazing. Would have been good to maybe see some combat or something like that. So we didn't really get that. But
Fable was another.
Yeah, yes. Fable was another one where this fantastic, which they did on afterwards when they did an interview. They're like, look, this is all in the game captured on the Series X. Of course, it's a cinematic that's been made, but within there were snippets of gameplay that were lacking a HUD and stuff like that. Which Fable's not going to be out next year. Everything else got dates of the end of this year or 2024 labels. Fable had nothing, so that's 2025 at the earliest. So how much it will develop between now and then remains to be seen, but I thought the trailer was great. National treasure, Richard Ayoade, front and centre. Like, great surprise to see him. So I think the show opened really strong, and there was strong stuff throughout. But Starfield, I can't. The Direct in particular, it's one of the craziest things I've ever seen. Like, it's the type of game where, we've mentioned No Man's Sky. This isn't No Man's Sky. It's doing a lot of similar things to No Man's Sky, but it's not. It's if No Man's Sky, James, I think you said, if it was made by like 1,000 people instead of 10. Mm-hmm. And that difference is going to show, and I think it showed during the Direct. They went through any questions I had about the game have sort of all been answered, and now I'm just desperate to play it, because I was hesitant, as a lot of people were. I was intrigued and excited because I love Bethesda through all their ups and downs, and I think they do stuff in games that other games don't do. That's just the way it is. Completely interactive worlds and all that kind of stuff. So to see them do that with Starfield was like, are they going to pull it off? And last year, the stuff we saw looked fine. Like, I don't think it blew anyone away last year.
It was a bit monochromatic. That was my main takeaway. Now they showed a lot more colour, I noticed, which is definitely an improvement.
Yeah, so I think they went out of their way to say, no, we've got a big game here. And there was like a hint at the end of possibly like Jedi powers or something like that. And it's just, it's the type of game that I would imagine when I was a kid that I want to play. And it was just doing so much stuff. I cannot express how excited I am about it. I am baffled how anyone can watch that, and even if it's like sci-fi RPGs aren't your thing, you can't just go, wow, that's pretty incredible what they've pulled off there, because I think it's going to be a very transformative game. I think it's doing a lot, obviously, for Xbox. And I think it was whether it was the most...
No, you're right. I'm looking at a list here of, like, it's actually... Yeah, that was definitely a strong contender for big game, and there's a lot of big games in that whole thing. I mean, sci-fi RPGs alone. Yeah, I know, it zoomed in on me, okay? Okay.
It went right into your mouth as you were talking.
But there was a really other big sci-fi RPG that's technically just a DLC update that was thrown in there as well, but we managed to get Keanu Reeves back to have a busted microphone and tell us about Phantom Liberty.
He sounded like a robot when he was talking.
He sounded like he was talking into the microphone and it was a bit too close. Wait, no. It was a bit too close. Yeah. So, James, I think you're the one who's got logged full hours and 100%ed of Cyberpunk. Are you excited?
Yeah, I 100%ed this game a few months ago, and so when it first released, of course, I didn't play on my PC. Because again, it's a PC from 2014.
Runs Lies of P, but doesn't run Cyberpunk. But then again, I don't think anything runs Cyberpunk back in. Yeah.
but it's like the new Crisis, isn't it? But like, yeah, it with patches and hard work by CD Projekt Red, and I know there's been a lot of controversy and valid controversy as well, like about how they've been treating their employees, etc. They've really tried hard. We got Edge Runners, like, which really bumped up the game, which made me want to go back into it. That's what they wanted. Yeah. They wanted players to go back into the game after they did all these patches. And yeah, I didn't get the most perfect, I didn't get the most pretty game while I was playing it, but I had so much fun playing this game. And one of my biggest questions leaving Cyberpunk, is it okay to say spoilers?
Spoiler warning for Cyberpunk 2077. The game's been out for a few years.
I've not played it, but I don't mind spoilers. Like, and I've only not played it because of just time and stuff. Like, now I hear it's very playable, and I keep meaning to start it. And then this year, there's just been like a game every single month that's come out. So I haven't. But I mean, sorry, James.
To be fair, Kels, you might want to.
So basically, you find out that V. You find out right at the beginning that V has. Who's the main character, has no chance of surviving. She's gonna die, or he's gonna die, or they're gonna die. Like, it's gonna happen. So, and no matter what you do, kind of changes that. Like, you can give yourself more time, or you can go off on your own terms, and like because there's several endings to Cyberpunk. This DLC starts off with Keanu Reeves' character, Johnny Silverhand, saying, there's a chance that we could save you, or I'm paraphrasing, but, that we could save you, and Netro and I, who's a fan of the show, we were talking about, like, there has to be, in a world where, people like hacking and cyber hacking and neural interfaces and, AI and stuff like that, there has to be a way that V is saved. There has to be a way. I know that the Cyberpunk universe is all about kind of dystopian, and I love that stuff, right? Dystopian kind of futures, and there is a sad ending, bittersweet ending, always is, right? I hope this DLC gives us a good ending.
Yeah.
Or gives you the choice of having one, even if it means making very bad decisions.
I mean, it's controversial, but giving a true, real happy ending as a post-release DLC is not necessarily, a positive aspect in the wider scope of things. People sometimes get mad about that, but this looks like it's Escape from New York in the Cyberpunk universe, so I'm all on board. I was all on board when the president is like in a slum in Night City. Let's go mess it up. Also, we're completely reworking the game and rebalancing it.
Yeah, that's
so, right. And it's got Idris Elba in it.
Yeah. I was just going to say, like, I'm going to hold off because a couple of things I've read says that it's not okay. This is not just a DLC; it's a game expansion. It's going to cost like £35, and they've changed the skill trees and changed loads of stuff. They changed like the way that the police react to crime and stuff like that. So it's very much, I've heard fundamental changes to the core game. So in a way, I'm kind of like, I'm sad I didn't get to experience it originally, but people are saying it's improved even more. So I think it looks great. It'll give me a reason to play it down the line.
CD Projekt Red, every time, like The Witcher 3, for instance, Wild Hunt, like I think they released 2 expansions for that.
They did.
And each one was really big. Like, it was like a whole new area, and they changed a whole bunch of stuff. And so I expect that. It's kind of like From Software. From Software did the same thing. When they release DLCs, they don't just like give you a couple extra costumes and like, an arena to fight in. They give you a whole new story to dive into. That is, it's not my most hype thing about the Xbox showcase, because I think that's still Starfield on par with something else, right? But I'm very excited about it. I get to see Idris Elba, so that's great.
Now, I have a problem, because obviously we only have so much time for a a moment of relief. It's only a fleeting moment, and we have a little bit more to get to. So I want to very quickly ask opinions on things. Like, Kelsey, you are big in Fallout. Tapes from the Waste, plug. Link in the description. Tapes from the Waste. Kelsey's Fallout project and podcast. There was some DLC announced for Fallout 76, Atlantic City. Are we excited?
So
I'm not sure of the scope of it. So if you want to,
So I made predictions. Like I said on Tapes from the Waste, that I wanted to see So they've been talking about a next-gen upgrade for Fallout for ages. That's still not here. I wanted to see a TV show for Fallout, heaven forbid, I know it was a game showcase. And I wanted to see 76 get airtime because, they own... Xbox have bought Bethesda. 76 Fallout is a flagship IP for them. And if that whole showcase went by and 76 didn't appear, I'd have been very upset. Because I think this is a game that... no matter what you think of it at launch, we all know it had a terrible launch. Games do this. It's not the same game it was at launch. It's completely different. It's great to play now. So Fallout 76 is a game that is a live service game, for want of a better phrase, that has persisted and is still there, while others have come and gone since it released. And there's a reason
Babylon
for that.
has literally fell.
Yeah, it's because it's a great game and it's had regular, constant free content drops, and it has a very solid player base. Even if you look on Steam, it's always over 6,000, and that's not even the main place people play 76. The main place they play it is on console. So I was very excited to see 76 get some airtime. For those who play the game will know that it's an expedition, which is essentially... think of like a raid in Destiny. That's basically what it is. It's a new location. Now, that's not my preferred addition to Fallout 76. I'd much prefer the more story-focused quest lines. But, there are a lot of people that enjoy it, and a lot of effort goes into it. And with the previous expedition we had, I said then, you can see the work that's gone in, new location, new enemies, new characters. But gameplay-wise, unless you've got 5 other friends to hook up with and devote an hour and a half to it, there's kind of no point in playing it. I play solo,
That's a shame.
so yeah. So it was great that it was there, but the update is personally not for me. And we literally just dropped a new episode of Tapes from the Waste tonight, talking about that. So
link in the description.
Listen.
Sorry, put a link in the description.
Yeah.
Right, there was one other thing at the Xbox conference. I know it's dominated a lot of the show, but let's be real. The trailers weren't there and all the other ones. It's Capcom. Us being a Resident Evil themed podcast, it's likely we'll be excited about a new Capcom project. In this case, it's not Onimusha. It is, I'm going to butcher this pronunciation, not intentionally, Kunitsugami Path of the Goddess.
Yeah, that's it.
It looks like it's a character action game with Japanese folklore as its main thrust, which I guess is a bit more than Onimusha was. Onimusha was Japanese demons specifically, so it looks kind of neat, but not enough really to chew on. Well, is that about a fair assessment?
Yeah, but I mean, the crazy thing is that Capcom had a showcase, and it was they're like, oh, we won't show this at our showcase. Let's show it at the Xbox showcase. And for a showcase that had lots of Japanese games, and Xbox is doing great now, it's for them to get that premiere, I thought was a big win. I think everybody who saw it thinks it looks beautiful. I would like to see more. So yeah.
Yes. James, you're pretty much on the same page. Or...
I think we'll get the same thing as we got with Pragmata. I think we'll probably see another teaser from this next year and no release date, and this game will probably come out in 2032.
Yeah. Yeah.
Speaking of Pragmata, let's move on to perhaps the wettest squib, unfortunately, as a Resident Evil fan, which was the Capcom showcase. No Resident Evil news. Resident Evil 4 VR news. If you own a PlayStation 5 and a VR 2, your quid's in. That looks like it's going to be kind of fun.
I feel like it's the same trailer as the last one, though, wasn't it?
I'm pretty sure it is. Also, if you're one of the 12 people on Steam playing RE-verse, you got to shout out.
12, that's generous. I don't think it's that high, Steve.
Yeah, it was 11 when
I'm going to mute my mic, but hopefully, you might have to put a bleep on the screen, Si, but right, yeah, it could have been better. It could have been better. It's great to see Street Fighter 6 is going strong. Pragmata looks to be some kind of sci-fi shooter, and Capcom Town looks fun. The main draw for me is seeing that Mega Man still exists and the Ace Attorney games are still getting love, as well as Ghost Trick. But unfortunately, I would argue they're not the big tentpoles of Capcom that they used to be. So if you were there for Resident Evil, you were kind of boned.
Dragon's Dogma 2 was great, though.
Yeah.
I was leading into that, James. Do you want to tell us about it?
Yeah, thanks, Merchant.
Stranger.
It was great. That's it. We don't have much time. So.
No, it's fine.
I'm kidding. We got to they gave us some copy paste of the previous trailer that they did. But they also added a few more things. Like they said, one really important thing I'm kind of bummed about, but it's okay. Like, is that I really wanted multiplayer in Dragon's Dogma 2. I really wanted to play with other people in that game because the way the game works is basically you have this AI team with you. You have your main character, and then you have
Your
up
pawns.
to 3 pawns. Yeah. And the pawns are someone you customize, you create, you give them armor, you set up their skills, their skill tree and stuff. And basically, one of my most fun things was, and you get rewards for people using them because you go into this like, I can't remember what it was called now, but it's like this web, this pawn web. Well, shouldn't have said that.
I was going to say,
but yeah,
A porn hub.
Exactly. Yeah, that's even worse. Yeah. Anyway, this place where all these pawns pop up, and you can choose. They just wander through this like innocuous kind of realm, and you choose which ones you want, whether they look the coolest or the abilities you like or anything. I used to love people picking my people because you get rewards for it. And you can bring other people's pawns with you onto your adventures. However, you can't bring other people with you. You can only bring out like other. Yeah, so that's been confirmed for Dragon's Dogma
Age 2
2.
Inquisition. I don't know if the new Dragon Age has a subtitle, but we can pretend it's the same game just so we don't feel neglected as BioWare fans.
I mean, I know we've kind of like joked, but I think all of us are in agreement, and say if I'm speaking out of turn for you both, like Capcom are on a hell of a run. They have been for a long time. I mean, and to be bringing Dragon's Dogma back as well, like it's just, despite the showcase being a bit of a lead balloon, like, yeah, just with Street Fighter and Resident Evil and, you know, Monster Hunter as well, you know, getting Monster Hunter on the Switch.
That was surprisingly absent, actually. Not to interrupt, but that was surprisingly absent. Carry on.
No, but I was just saying, like, you know, I think generally, you know, RE versus excused, like, you know, we love Capcom, and I think maybe that's why that showcase is a bit disappointing, because like you say, Steve, it's like, if you're a fan of this, you didn't get it, and it's like, I don't know. I mean, sometimes maybe it's just... I do wonder about how on the pulse they are for, you know, the Western world and stuff like that, and it's just because you see this happen all the time. Nintendo do it as well, and it's just like the directs can be very hit and miss, and it's the same with Capcom. But we all know that outside of that, they make literally some of the best games out there, and Capcom are probably, you know, outside of Nintendo, I don't know if I can think of a stronger studio out there that is independent.
Yeah,
an independent
in terms of
studio.
third party.
Yeah, that's third party. I mean,
Yeah.
you could say maybe Rockstar, but they put out a game like once every 20 years, so it doesn't really count. But yeah, Capcom is.
Someone
just like,
reminded me of like the No, I think Capcom are definitely, in terms of Japanese independent developers, well, independent in they're an independent third party, not like they're literally, you know, they're not making it all on their own or whatever. Yeah, they're definitely strongest. Konami have kind of fallen from grace. Sega are on the upswing, I feel, but they're still on the back foot compared to Capcom. Yeah, I would argue that it wasn't the end of the world, like a lot of the social media Resident Evil fandom would lead us to believe. But I'd argue it was a bit mid. It wasn't offensive. It just wasn't great.
It didn't require a showcase.
No. That's it. A lot of people were saying the same thing. Like, you know, why did you have this event? You didn't have anything really to show.
They just wanted to be a part of the season, and
Yeah.
Like I can't believe I'm going to
got this extra money here.
Yeah, I can't believe I'm going to say this, but I think Ubisoft had a better showcase than Capcom, which is crazy to think, but you know, because they were showing off a lot of high-end stuff and high graphics and stuff like that. But yeah, we do love you, Capcom, for all of those Johnny Capcoms that are watching this. But yeah, you didn't need that showcase.
I mean, I have to be honest, I didn't realise Ubisoft had a showcase. So if anyone has any details to elucidate,
they have the Star Wars Outlaws. Is that you? That's Ubisoft, right?
Yep.
Oh,
which looks really freaking good. If you,
they had that.
I only saw the reveal trailer. I didn't realise that was. I didn't realise they had their own showcase. So Star Wars Outlaws. Is there any other bangers?
Assassin's Creed Mirage, which they showed more gameplay of, and now I'm just blanking. But there was a couple more.
Prince of Persia.
Prince of Persia, which looks good. Like, it's like I know that apparently they're remaking other Prince of Persia games, but this one it's like, yeah, it's one I'd like to play. It looks simple, straightforward, classic. Yeah, I thought it looked good.
Yeah. I know a lot of people are going to be looking at us confused because we're old people, but the fact when they say back to its roots and it actually is a 2D side-scrolling platformer is actually its roots, guys. Yeah. It's not the Two Thrones and Sands of Time. So there was one other showcase that I kind of don't want to mention, but we're here anyway. We might as well do it. The PC Gamer Showcase.
Yeah.
Come on, there were some good games there, and I'm gonna list them off.
Go for it. The floor is yours.
We had the sequel to Frostpunk.
Okay, yes, all right, you can have that one.
Right, which is a class game. Unfortunately, it's only available on PC. Right, but it might be on other stuff. But
I mean, the nature of the beast with the PC Gamer Show.
Yeah, but Frostpunk was amazing, award-winning, was a great resource management game, 4X kind of resource management game. We had Jump Light. It had like a subtitle, Odyssey, I think it was, which is like a spaceship sim.
Okay.
Right, which was like, it kind of reminded me of FTL mixed with XCOM.
James.
Yeah.
That's telling me if two like high quality, high class drugs are available in my area. I'm kidding, don't do drugs. XCOM and FTL having a baby. I might have to go and look at this actually. Sorry.
But it doesn't stop there, Steve. Because you also got Miasma Chronicles, which is XCOM, and it's like in a fantasy but present day-ish like kind of thing, right? Okay. But it's very, very sexy. And there's also have you seen? I sent you. I might not send you a link, but I told you about it. But there was that. But there was Mariachi Legends.
The Metroidvania looking. Yeah, okay. Kind of neat. Metroidvanias are strangely an underrepresented genre for me at the minute. I want them in the Egovania style, but we keep getting lots and lots of 8-bit Hollow Knight knockoffs, which is fine. Hollow Knight's ace, but it's not what I'm after. So please, if you're listening to this, Koji Igarashi, bless us with Bloodstained 2, please.
And the final one for me, the one that made me go, like everybody, I think everybody at some point on the First Aid Spray Discord is probably going to play this game, and it's Undead Inc.
Because the Resident Evil management sim.
Yeah, it basically, when I was watching that, I was like, oh, this is what would happen in an alternate universe if Birkin didn't go crazy. You know?
My only criticism there is it didn't have any gameplay. It was just an animated teaser, which was a poster chart for Team 17 at this event. They had lots of animated trailers, not a whole lot of gameplay.
Yeah, you're right. But we also know what the Inc. games are like.
Yes.
You know, like they tend to be very addictive and fun to play, and that's something you pick up for a couple minutes and then put down throughout the day. You know, they're fun to kind of dig into.
And there was actually one game I did actually catch my eye. I'll chime on and say that Mullet Mad Jack looks awesome. 90s anime inspired, like Hotline Miami first-person shooter. It literally looks like it could have been Snatcher if it was an FPS. But you also only have 10 seconds to live, and it's kind of crazy. That being a reinvention of the genre, kind of fun. But other than that, I guess we've gone over the whole thing. Is there anything particular we want to talk about that we haven't had time for? I will say Kels, because they've been quiet and respectful.
I think I've mostly covered everything. I mean, I suppose just my final wrap-up thoughts, because I did a bullet point. How do we feel going into the conferences about the lineup 2020? Yeah. So I was just thinking about, and I have to wrap up because I am sweating. It's very, very warm here.
It is hot. I'm going, nah. So yeah, I get it.
I just want to say, I think it's for me personally with gaming, the early part of this year, I was feeling very down on games, and it continued a bit into the year because we're just seeing more and more games released broken, and for everything, and it was kind of like, is this generation ever going to take off? Are we going backwards? You know, what's happening and all this kind of stuff. And then very slowly, kind of one by one, we started to have games come out one after the other that have sort of rejuvenated, you know, RE4, Metroid Prime. You could say the Dead Space remake as well, even though I haven't played that. Not Breath of the Wild. Tears of the Kingdom. It's definitely not Breath of the Wild. Yeah, and I'm currently playing Diablo 4, and it's just like there's loads of games now that I'm excited about looking forward after this showcase. Like, coming up the rest of the year, like for me, it's so Starfield, Lies of P, that are both like in the same month, I think, as well. Obviously, if you're a PlayStation player, you've got Spider-Man coming after that. I also have Forza Motorsport coming, which I will play because it's coming to Game Pass, and it's a AAA game, so I have to play it. Like, I'm not even a racing sim enthusiast, but I will play that. And yeah, just the slate looking ahead looks really, really strong, and Sonic Superstars and the DLC for Shredder's Revenge are just like, you know, as a fan of both the franchises and a father, they're just like a dream come true that they're coming to my life really soon. So I've come out of the showcases, despite some of it being a bit mid, there's so much good stuff like on the horizon. Like, I always say it, as gamers, we're just utterly spoiled at the moment. There's too much to play. Yeah, we've kind of joked around and bitched and moaned a little bit today, but I mean, on a whole, I mean, there's something for everyone, let's be honest.
It makes you think, like, we've got such bangers that are going to be releasing later on this year. Armored Core is another one that's coming as well. Yeah.
Oh my god!
Like, what is going to be shown at the Games Awards?
Yeah,
like,
right.
I'm thinking to myself, I hope we're not going to get any repeats from the Summer Games Fest. You know, and we don't tend to at the Game Awards. We tend to get like brand new
calling
stuff.
it now. I'm calling it now. We're going to see Immortals Avium on every stage for another 20 bloody minutes.
No, we're getting Dragon Age is what we're getting. Like that, we're going to be getting that. Anyone else have any predictions for the Game Awards?
Well, obviously, as an Xbox fan and a host of a Gears of War podcast, like, no Gears of War at the Xbox showcase was kind of unbelievable. I don't care if the game's 3 years away. I thought they should have announced it. And my thoughts coming out of that were, okay, so you've not announced it here. Does that mean we have to wait a year for a Gears of War announcement? And then in my head, I'm like, that can't be true. So I would be stunned if Gears 6 wasn't announced at the Game Awards at the end of the year. I think it has to be. Otherwise, I don't know what's going on over there.
I hope it is.
I'm gonna counterpoint you and say Dragon Age can sit down. I want Mass Effect 4, please.
Yeah, where is that?
Well, Dragon Age has been in development for longer.
Look, all right, we've got Dragon's Dogma and God knows how many other sci-fi, fantasy RPGs. You've got Baldur's Gate 3 coming soon, James. Let Steve have his sci-fi one, please. Pretty please. With sugar on chocolate. I love you.
No,
really.
I'm not allowing this.
Well, okay.
It's funny, by the way, just so everybody knows, myself and Steve absolutely love Mass Effect. So.
But yeah, no, actually, I'm kind of with, like, I need to catch up with the Gears games, but I feel like Halo had a lot of the spotlight in the past 5 or so years. I think Kelsey's right. It's probably due a return.
Well,
as is Quake and Doom.
You know, they're a studio at the top of their game. They help everybody else out. They're technical wizards with Unreal. And the thing that I hear about it is the reason it wasn't shown is because it's taking a long time to make, because they are going to do something special with it. And you know, the previous game, Gears 5, was the best looking game of the last generation, and then it got an update for next gen, and it's unbelievable what they pulled off. And obviously I'm a fanboy for the franchise. It's more than just a bro shooter for those listening. I promise you it's more than that. It's got a lot of heart. And so an Xbox showcase went by. There was no Gears and no Halo. You know, I mean, I don't want to branch off talking more, but you know, Halo is obviously, they've gutted the studio. Yeah, that's probably going to be not as infinite as they anticipated. So maybe at the Game Awards something for Halo. I don't know. Probably not though.
Hopefully Wolverine. Kinda, I want to see Wolverine now.
Yeah,
Spider-Man, not to backtrack all the way to the start, but yeah, as a big Arkham game fan, and they're carrying the torch, I want to see how they do that with Wolverine next. Right, I feel like it's probably best to time and wrap up. However, I also have to read this script that Si has told me and try and do it in a professional manner.
Don't mess it up, Steve. Don't mess it up. We're all watching and listening.
No pressure. Okay.
Right.
Yep.
Okay. I am going. I'm going to do this very nicely, okay? Well, that does it for this episode of A Moment of Relief. Let us know what your big takeaways were from the conferences and showcases, good and bad. Most episodes of this show, like everything we do, come early to our wonderful patrons, so please consider supporting First Aid Spray. If you're on YouTube, make sure to subscribe. Thank you to X, I think that means you, Kels, for joining me. And thank you to X, James.
That's me, yeah.
And thank you, genuinely, for tuning in. This has been Steve. This has been A Moment of Relief. Bye-bye!
Bye, guys.
Does that mean together we are Triple X?
Yeah.
That's staying in. Yes.